YouTubers? Welcome to another edition of Walking Reviews. Today we're going to be taking a look at a custom knife from a maker who I have done a review on one of his knives before, but this is a new model. Well, not a new model, new to me model anyway. This is called the Arc by Richard Rogers. If you look back, I did a review on one of his knives called the Vector V2. I don't know if the Vector came first or the Arc, but either way, this is a new model to me. So let's go ahead and jump in. We have a blade length of just under 3 inches, like 2.95 of CPM 154. You can see it's got that really pronounced Wharncliffe blade. Ooh, sorry about the focus there. It's really pronounced Wharncliffe blade style with nice top swedge there. Nice hollow grind. Oop, almost cut myself there. I did cut myself. Very sharp, as you can see. It's got sort of like a bead blasted finish. And then as far as the opening method goes, you can see the pronounced finger hole there. This is a very thin blade and not very wide either, which is going to limit the type of tasks you're going to want to use this knife for. On top of that, the entire package is extremely thin and skinny, which we'll get into in a second. The handle, you can see the show side here is lightning strike carbon fiber. Very beautiful piece, nice and polished on the surface here, and then you can see kind of the mess of wires on the side there, which I don't mind. That doesn't bother me. The lock side is titanium that has been anodized blue. You can see it's a frame lock there. The handle length is only 3 3/4 inches. So overall length, you're looking at about 6 3/4. So it's not a big knife. And on top of that, it is extremely thin. This might be one of the thinnest, or the thinnest knife that I own. And it's skinny as well. I'll put it in my hand so you can kind of get an idea. I do have large hands, but you can see how kind of small it is. So really, this is a very light utility knife. The lockup is very secure, but even with that being said, the weight on this knife is like 1.7 or 1.8 ounces. So when you get it in hand, you'll kind of understand, oh yeah, this is for a very, for light EDC tasks, like food prep or package opening, stuff like that. It really excels at those. But as far as heavier stuff, I wouldn't want to risk it. It's not that I don't have faith in Richard's skills as a knife maker. It's just that the inherent build of the knife just kind of screams, hey, don't use me, don't abuse me. It does run on ball bearing pivot, although the base model, I believe, is Nylotron washers. The fit and finish is exceptional. Centering is perfect. Like I said, really the only, it's more of a nitpick, but the way that the wires kind of show there in the carbon fiber, I'm not crazy about it, but like I said, it's not really doesn't bother me all that much. Construction is very simple. 2 standoffs at the pivot and then your stop pin there. As far as opening goes, you can, if you can get your finger in there, see, I fucked it up. There you go. You can flick it out with your middle finger on the opposite side. You can roll it out, obviously. or if you can dig your thumb in, you can flick it out, and it flicks out very satisfyingly. Yeah, it's fun to play with for sure. It's also very smooth. I told you this does have a ball bearing pivot. I'm sure that it would be almost exactly as smooth on Nylotron washers, but this one just happened to have the ball bearing pivot. I did get this pre-owned, so I guess it may have come a little bit broken in, but the edge is still extremely sharp. So like I said, the model name is the Arc, and I'm almost positive that it gets that name. If you look at the spine there, it's just one long arc from tip to tail. So I'm assuming that's where you got the name the Arc from. Ergonomically, you do have, it's not really a finger groove per se because the lock side blocks you a little bit, and there's no jimping up top, which is another one of the reasons I wouldn't press this into anything more than light utility, because there's nothing that's going to keep this from slipping if you apply too much pressure. There's the lockup. There's no insert or anything, it's just titanium on steel, but there's zero stickiness. Very easy lock bar to disengage. There's no over travel either, and it's a fairly thin titanium lock side, so I'd be careful about over bending it. The pocket clip, very functional, although this groove does stick out just a little bit further than I'd like. Again, that's just another nitpick though. What else do we got here? There's not a whole lot more to say. It rides exceptionally well in the pocket. One other little detail, the ball bearing pivot is actually uncaged bearings, and they are very tiny. I wish I had known that before I disassembled the knife for cleaning, but there you go. Very, very tiny uncaged ball bearing pivot. So if you do get your hands on one of these and it does have the ball bearings instead of the Nylotron washers, be careful when you're taking it apart, if you take it apart. I love how clean the blade is. He's the same way with the Vector. Very tasteful about where he puts his maker's mark in the blade steel. There's no big banner. I don't understand makers or companies who think it's okay to put a huge banner on the blade. There was a knife that I was looking at buying, and I'll just tell you the name of it. It was the Korth K2 TAD edition, and it has logos all over the blade, all over, like dead center giant logo, and then there's stuff back here and there's stuff on the other side. It's a little bit too much. I appreciate that it's a creation, you know, a knife maker feels a lot of pride in their creations, and they want to let people know, hey, this was me. But you have to understand that once you sell the knife, it becomes someone else's property, and they probably aren't as big a fan of seeing your name everywhere as maybe you are. That's just a little, you know, rant, side note type whatever. It has nothing to do with this knife. This knife is, in my opinion, an example of the right way to do it. As far as value goes, the base model of the Arc is $425 for a full custom knife. So definitely very high in the value category for custom knives if you can get it from the maker. Secondhand, you're obviously going to pay more. Where would this be? Where would the cutoff point be? That's really subjective. I would say for a custom knife with the build quality and the design of Richard Rogers, even though it is light and it's small, so it doesn't take up a whole lot of material, I would say somewhere in the $800 range probably for me would be the cutoff point as far as high value goes. But at $425 from the maker, it's an incredible bargain. Richard Rogers might not be, you know, Les George or Rexford popular, but he makes an exceptional knife. Everything I've ever handled that he's made has been perfect, and he's got some really interesting designs. So I say definitely worth it in my opinion. That's gonna wrap this one up, guys. My dog has finally returned from chasing deer. I think I got to everything, although this one feels like it was very short. But anyways, I have plenty of more knives for review coming up. I'm trying to think if I have any giveaways in mind coming up. Probably the next giveaway will be sometime in February. Maybe sooner if the mood strikes me, but yeah, that's gonna be it for this one, guys. Stay tuned for the next one, and I will talk to you later. Take it easy.